Portland has this waterfront blues festival every year, and it's a big multi-day event outside. I hang out. They have multiple stages, and I hang out in the one where there's dancing because I'm a big swing dancer, and there's blues and Zydeco bands playing all day long. So a bunch of friends and I who were dancing, we put our stuff under a table and we go on a dance floor. I come back from a stretch of dancing, and there's this guy who is sitting at the table. Clearly, he's being disruptive. I kind of got the sense when I walked over that, there were people probably within 20 feet who were kind of like, sitting on eggshells or walking on eggshells. They were realizing that he was a problem, but didn't want to say anything to him. So I walked over to him, and he kind of, gave me this attitude that, it's his table now. He took a beer out of his, pocket and kept drinking it. And I just kind of ignored him as far as his claim, but, said, hey, look, he's welcome to stay here. My bag is under the table, and I'm going to sit here. So I sat down in a chair about 4 feet from him. Very clearly, he was, not necessarily in control of himself. He was kind of cursing, raising his voice, probably drunk, maybe on a drug of sorts, I'm not sure. But again, I was just having a regular conversation with him. Things kind of, diffused for a couple of minutes. And then another friend of mine sat down on my other side. And for whatever reason, this guy, a lot of times when people have this self-hatred, they're looking for an excuse to have a fight. They will make, sometimes really wild instigation, provocations. In this case, he started, first he started, making comments about his weight. He was a larger guy, and he started, trying to put him down. Clearly that wasn't getting to the guy, so he tried to come up with other things. And this was a really interesting moment. He started accusing this guy of being a child molester and saying at one point he said some really gross comments, which I won't repeat here. But the interesting thing though, is that at one point, I'm talking to him, I'm like, you're kind of going over a line. And he said something that was so wildly inappropriate that I actually got angry with him. And at that point, I forget what his name is, but I clearly got upset, but still in a very, kind of monotone voice, I said, you need to stop that. That's wrong. And, I call it kind of the God voice or the parent voice. And it was really interesting because at that point he stopped, he lowered his head and he said, I'm sorry. And he didn't go in that area anymore. So, it was just a really interesting kind of, moment that even though this guy seemed kind of out of control, I was actually able to, get him to do the right thing, provided in a very delicate manner. At that point, I was like surprised and relieved. And I, sat up and realized at this point there were about 5 security guards behind me and him that were overseeing the situation. A woman from that group came over at that point and started talking to me. And, she seemed to be this really rare individual that I think I present at times, which is she knows that a person is being out of control, but she also knows how to handle them in a manner so that it doesn't escalate. So she and I talked to him for another, probably 5 minutes or so. We eventually got him to leave the public area where this concert was going on. So it had a semi, beneficial ending. But it was just really interesting that, here was this person who was seemingly out of control, could still be made to be put in control if you handled it deftly.